Guys, so this is What If Deku was Black Lightning Part 2. Now, I said I was going to do Part 2 as soon as my video gets over 100 views, and it got 105 views. So let's get into it, guys. After this video, I will be uploading some newer What Ifs. I will be uploading one new What If, and I will be continuing another What If that I might make it a little bit better, but I am going to make two new What Ifs. I'm going to be making what if Deku was enhanced, or what if Deku was or if Deku was cyberly enhanced or experimented on, and the other one is going to be what if Deku was as Guardian. So yeah, let's get into it, guys, and let's just start the video. We start our story off last time when we left off, where we see Deku back at his house after the first day of UA. After that, we see that Deku goes to Gambi's place to pretty much find out or look at his new outfit and try to figure out, what's his new hero costume going to look like. Now, basically, Gambi made a version of the hero costume for the UA for him to wear to eventually become a hero, but he also made a vigilante suit because he knew Deku deep down inside wanted revenge for his father's death. So he made a slight vigilante suit for Deku, but another suit mainly, more heroic like and more like Deku's personality. Now, basically, Deku would see his hero costume suit, and it would look something like this. And so this would be Deku's hero costume suit. Basically, a little bit more, well, let's just say a little bit more heroic, like, but a little bit more grounded. Kind of like, well, just simple, basically. Deku's hero costume looks something like this, and basically, he will modify it later on in the future, like maybe season 3 or 4, but it'll be modified later on in this What If or in this series. Now, his vigilante suit will look something like this. It looks something like his Young Justice suit. Oh, sorry, guys, I switched it up. Okay, this is gonna be his hero costume suit. This one from Young Justice, and this would be Deku's vigilante suit right here. So let's just get into the What If. Now we basically see Deku start off his day, walk into UA after he gets told about his hero costume suit and his vigilante suit. His vigilante suit works similar to his hero costume suit. His hero costume suit has a lot of tech underneath the thin fabric. It may look simple, but the suit is really decked out in tech in general underneath the suit with a lot of more nanotech or very small compacted technology underneath the fabric of the suit. Basically, the suit is bulletproof and made out of a very absorbing material that's basically like Kevlar but thin and smooth like fabric and also latex. So it's basically pretty really flexible but also really durable. So it's cut proof and bulletproof. But Quarks can damage it. Like since it's mainly bulletproof, fireproof, and cut proof, basically all the parts of his suit that isn't covered, like his hands or his face, are vulnerable. His goggles are able to put a little bit like a 4-inch force field around the goggles, so pretty much his face and pretty much the forward area or the his frontal lobe is protected by gunfire. But if somebody shot him in the arm or in the hands or the back of the head, he's pretty vulnerable. And pretty much also Deku is very vulnerable to head injuries from the back of his head, like falling over on the back of his head or him getting cut on his hands or something like that. But basically, his suit can also absorb most of the electricity that goes up to his brain or goes up to his nervous system, so he doesn't get overloaded or he doesn't get, strained or tired out. So yeah, the suit also absorbs electricity in it, so if his powers are ever dampened or his powers are ever, temporarily, disabled, like an MVP or something, or was an energy absorber or somebody that can absorb energy that's over counteracting Deku's powers, he can use electricity stored up in his suit to pull out of it if he's not near any electronic device or any pretty much grid or power grid. So if the city like blacked out or if he isn't able to get to electricity. Every time he absorbs electricity in his suit, 1% of that electricity stores up in the suit. So he could have extra electricity in his body or in the suit so he doesn't have to rely on other sources of energy like the power grid or lights or anything like that. Now, basically, pretty much Deku's powers are kind of, well, help with the suit. And the suit is mainly just for flexibility and durability, and also is helping him with the whole entire electric nervous system problem. But basically, other than that, it's just a suit. The vigilante suit, same thing. It's just that it's a lot more durable and is mainly for like very more cut, bruising, beatings, and stuff like that. Since he is going to be on the streets and dealing with actual villains in the suit, or actual villains that will kill him. So basically, stuff like that. And basically, what happened doing this is pretty much we see that Deku would have gone to UA, basically walking into Class 1A, and pretty much the rest of the day would go semi the same, exactly the same, until All Might showed up. All Might would still do his whole entire thing, saying the suits make what was it? The suits make the pros, and pretty much he would have showed them their hero costumes. Deku's hero costume being replaced with Gambia's hero costume. He would get in his hero costume, and he would get ready. Basically, him getting ready and getting, just shocked up. Pretty much, he would say it's a pretty simple design. Kirishima saying it's a pretty simple suit. Deku saying is more to it than you think. Basically, they would have made themselves outside, and they would have started to get teamed up. Now, pretty much the lightning bolts, they are more pointed, like the first appearance of Black Lightning and Young Justice, so they're not as square or as oval shaped as was it the newer appearances of Black Lightning and Young Justice. But yeah, basically we said Deku would have gotten ready, and pretty much Deku and Ochaku would still be teamed up. Now, guys, what should be the ship for this what if? And that's the only question I'm asking you guys. So what should be the ship? But basically, continue our story off. Pretty much Deku getting ready for the combat training. And they go into the building, they get ready, and Deku starts to pretty much channel some electricity from the building and gets ready to go all in. Basically, because he has like beef with Bakugo and he wants to settle it right now, right here. He pretty much just tells Ochaku to handle Ida while I take down Bakugo and join you upstairs, like so we can get the bomb. And so basically, pretty much they do the plan, and Ochaku, pretty much bolts, and Deku walks down the hallways. He eventually comes across Bakugo, and he gets to the fighting stance, and they both charge at each other. Bakugo throws explosions left and right, and they start to fight in the hallway, kind of like Painkiller and Gravedigger did in the Black Lightning TV show. They start to fight left and right, mainly hand-to-hand combat. Eventually, Deku gets the upper hand in hand-to-hand combat, and Bakugo just says forget it and throws a huge explosion at Deku's gut, pushing Deku back but not leaving enough damage. Deku's suit isn't explosion proof by any means, but it's durable enough to take a few hits from Bakugo before he feels any type of pain or, injuries. Like more, damage or injuries like third-degree burns or anything like that, or bruising. Deku gets up and pretty much absorbs electricity and pretty much starts to shock the absolute soul out of Bakugo. Bakugo starts to lose consciousness and starts to, pass out. Eventually, him saying is another way, him pulling the things on his wrist or the gauntlets, and pretty much All Might says, no, wait, Bakugo. Basically, him saying if he doesn't want to die, he'll dodge it. Basically, the explosion going off, and since he pulled both of them at the same time, Bakugo was sent flying like about 10 feet away, and pretty much Deku is almost pushed out the whole building through walls and walls. Deku was able to get up because, well, Black Lightning has a sort of, well, faster healing process than other people because he super heals because of his electricity, but he can't regenerate, but he can heal faster than a normal person. And basically, Deku starts to get up, basically walking off the bruising, and surprisingly, Deku not having any broken bones. His two fingers right here are shattered, but still, he doesn't have any vital broken bones. Basically, Deku starts to walk off. Basically, him going upstairs to try to help Ochaku. Him being pretty beaten up, and Bakugo being knocked out by the backlash. Him in a wall, pretty much making a crater behind him. Him being knocked out cold. Deku walks upstairs or runs upstairs. Basically, him going up and seeing Ochaku. Pretty much, trying to get to the bomb, but he is running around with the bomb in his hands, getting away from Ochaku. Deku shoots a lightning bolt right at Ida's feet, pretty much pushing Ida into a nearby wall, knocking him out cold. Deku pretty much shocks himself forward using his electricity blast, pretty much grabbing the bomb before it hits the ground, and him pretty much, or them, winning the combat train. After that, they're pretty much told to go back home, And pretty much that would be it. But pretty much continue our story off with basically Deku, well, for his vigilante thing. Because I did say in part 1, part 2 is going to be a little bit more vigilante. So basically, after Deku's combat training, Deku would talk to Ochaku, and eventually Deku would basically, well, talk to pretty much everybody in the class, getting a feel for everybody before they leave to go home. As Deku go home, basically he would have stopped by like Gambi's place, and Gambi would have been asleep. Well, he would have thought Gambi would be asleep. He'd go into Gambi's room, basically grabbing his vigilante suit and pretty much him getting ready. Deku would have gotten ready and basically would have ran outside and would have gone to pretty much vigilante. He'd stopped a couple of crimes, a couple of muggings, and even a car thief, and also even a car chase by the police. Pretty much him becoming the new vigilante in town. Some heroes would try to stop him, and pretty much one hero in particular, more skilled hero, would be Aizawa. Deku started to run for it, trying to not getting caught by Aizawa. Aizawa starting to try to, well, dampen Deku's quirk. Since Deku's quirk wasn't really a quirk, it was an artificial quirk. Pretty much he just, shocked himself away from pretty much Aizawa. Aizawa being confused on like why his quirk didn't work on him. Deku would be going around the city, eventually him doing some, stopping some, was it petty thieves, and eventually it would be one big, like, heist in the middle of the night. He would stop them, he would be doing little quippy jokes, like, little quippy puns, like, kind of like Static Shock does, basically him doing a lot of, just fighting back and just, just keeping a low profile. Him not using a lot of his electricity powers to bring more attention to the area. Basically one of the thugs would have been on the ground saying, "Please don't hurt us." Basically him saying that the bias sent us to do this. Pretty much Deku would have heard this and he would have said, "The bias?" He would have grabbed the thug and basically would have shot his lights out, him having nearly permanent brain damage, the man being a vegetable now, Deku not knowing it, but Deku not knowing that he used that much electricity on his nervous system or on the guy. The guy fell down on the ground with electricity marks on his body, and Deku walked off. And basically, Deku would have done a little research and basically would have found out that Tobias moved to Japan a year ago. Basically, his contacts here becoming bigger and bigger over the months. Basically, Deku would be super furious. Like, well, Gambi didn't even know about this. He probably did, but he didn't tell him. Deku would have been furious and would have wanted to go straight to the Bias' headquarters or straight to the Bias and himself and just murk that fool. But he knew that the night was almost done and he also needed to go to school the next day. So he just let it be. He walked off, basically him being very confused on why the Bias was in Japan and why he moved to Japan when Harlem or when Freeland was in more trouble than it was. Now we switch to the Bias' problem. The Bias moved to Japan because Freeland was becoming way more too powered. Basically, quirks all around the world were going crazy. Because in Freeland, people that didn't have quirks in Freeland started to get quirks that were way powerful than they should be. And people that had quirks in Freeland, their quirks were modified and became better than before. So basically, Freeland's police and everything else went down, and Freeland became a dead zone. Over the years, Freeland became better because more people were set in there, more police, and eventually Freeland became a more better place. But Tobias felt like Japan needed more of his touch because Japan, well, with its quirks, heroes, and everything, and with its society and people wanting to be villains left and right, and more quirk people being in Japan than Freeland, well, Freeland's people would be more powerful, but more people that had quirks in Japan that were more, accepting to work for Tobias were there. So he moved to Japan. Freeland was safe at this point, but later on we'll touch on Freeland later on doing the same time around the My Hero Academia movies. Deku mainly be going to Freeland or dealing with Freeland problems. So yeah. After that, we see that pretty much Deku the next day, pretty much after that, Deku would go to school. And a couple weeks later, for the next couple weeks of before the or was it, the next couple weeks before the the USJ event, Deku would have been vigilanting, and he would get closer and closer to the exact location to where Tobias was. Eventually, he would find a bias at a nearby, pretty much, well, what was it, sellout near docks, and basically Deku would have been furious. Him wanting to end this. As Tobias would see Deku, he would have said, the kid looks familiar. Check him out, Jimmy. Pretty much, Jimmy would have been Tobias' right-hand man in this canon, him having pretty much, what was it, fire abilities. His fire powers would be similar to Endeavor's, but about 10 times weaker. Him being able to control flames, but him not being able to produce them, meaning that he need a lighter or a gas tank to use his powers. He's basically like Pyro, he needs an outside source of fire to use his abilities. So basically, what happened is Deku would have started to use his electricity to dodge or block off the fire using his pretty much electricity force field, and he would start to dodge out the way. Basically, Deku would start to dodge out the way, jumping on different crates and pretty much what was it tanks, pretty much walking away, and pretty much him getting a higher distance or a higher vantage point, him using his fingers as like a gun movement or a gun shape, him pretty much targeting pretty much the back of Jimmy's head, using his electricity to shock a very thin ball of electricity towards Jimmy's head, knocking him out cold and making him black out because of the pain. He would have passed out on the ground, being just, flat out folded and just laid out like a carpet. Basically, Tobias saying that he was gonna do this, and he just walked off, saying we gotta run this stuff over and to pack everything up. Deku was gonna let him go, so Deku pretty much went down there, not even taking in for granted that Tobias was very strong, even All Might levels of strength, but wasn't that strong, but near All Might levels of strength. As Tobias would see Deku run towards him, Tobias would have kicked Deku in the chest, moving him into a nearby crate, knocking Deku out with just one kick. Just one kick, like not even a punch or a spin, like just one like sideways kick, pushing Deku back. Tobias would have said, you ripped my suit, you monkey." Basically, him walking towards Deku and starting to beat him down into a bloody pulp, even after Deku was knocked out. Deku went back into consciousness a couple minutes later, with Tobias still being on him. Deku feeling the pain and his bones being broken. Deku lashed out with a huge ball of electricity, pushing Tobias back, and Tobias would have said to run it over, and you pretty much move out. They would have moved and would have left, and Deku would have gotten up. If you're worried about the whole entire monkey line, you should know Tobias is kind of racist, but yeah, and Tobias makes a lot of racist jokes or a lot of racist commentary. But yeah, after that, was that pretty much Deku would have walked back to Gambi's place, and Gambi would have been awake. Gambi would have immediately helped Deku, helping him with his broken bones, and would have seen that his healing process was already starting. Basically, since Deku's powers are faster and better than the original Black Lightning's powers, his healing process would have been a little bit faster, but not fast enough to heal up completely. The next couple of weeks, Deku would have been faking off and pretty much not trying to use his body as much as possible to make sure his bones are healing. And by the time the USJ runs along, Deku's body was nearly fully healed. Now, for this point, I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. I'm sorry if the video is a little bit short, but hope you enjoy the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe, and as always, guys, have a blessed day. Before I go, my next two what ifs I'm going to be uploading today or this week are going to be what if Deku was enhanced or cyberly enhanced or experimented on, and what if Deku was as Guardian. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you guys later. Deuces.